and there's lots to talk about. Keir Starmer, in fact, we should kick off with. Theo, very good morning to you.
Very good morning to you.
Greetings of the season.
Yes.
We are, what, less than a week away from Christmas now?
Yes.
Getting exciting?
Yes, it's very exciting. I've already had to chop the top of the Christmas tree because I listened to my 10-year-old son and bought one that was too big for the living room.
Of course.
As you do.
Yeah.
Of course.
There's always last-minute adjustments to be made, aren't there?
But I've managed to position the star so it doesn't look too lopsided.
Okay.
But it's okay, but there we are.
As long as everybody's happy. We've got a terrible story for you later on about baubles, by the way. Apparently they carry all kinds of germs, which you have to be very, very careful about where you store them, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
Or is this just one of those silly Christmas stories?
I don't think it is. No, I don't think it is. We'll come to that in a minute.
Right.
Let's talk about Keir Starmer, one of those other silly Christmas stories. I'm assuming he's back today for Prime Minister's Questions,
Yes.
having gone off to Norway and Estonia on his travels. While he was in Estonia, by the way, he had an interview with Never Mind the Ballots chief political man from The Sun, Mr. Harry Cole, chief political editor, and he got a little bit tetchy when he was asked. Let's have a quick look at when he was asked about his nicknames.
Did you think it would be this rough this quickly? You've garnered quite a few nicknames so far. You've got your Starmer the Farmer Harmer, your Free Gear Kid. Did you think it was going to be this rough this quick?
I've had a lot worse than that in my time, Harry, over the years. So there'll be a great collection of them.
Do you think it's a bit unfair? Did you think it was going to be this difficult this quickly?
Look, we've had to take tough decisions. You can't have everything. But what I decided was prioritise making people better off and getting those waiting lists down. Yeah. And we had to do that. We'll be judged by that in
Have you
due
made
course.
mistakes in the last 5 months? Have you made any mistakes so far in office?
Well, all the decisions we've made were decisions we knew we had to make, but I wasn't prepared to walk past the difficult decisions.
I mean, he keeps saying things as though we're not listening.
Yes.
You know, he keeps making difficult decisions. He had to prioritise making people better off. People are worse off. So he hasn't prioritised that. He had to prioritise getting the waiting list down. The waiting lists have gone up. It's almost as if he's living inside of a vacuum, inside of a bottle, inside of a big case that doesn't actually have any light coming into it from the outside world.
He's sort of, in his vacuum on a ship in Estonia.
Yeah.
The problem that Keir Starmer has got is that he's taken these tough decisions, but then he's asked for more time because, of course, nobody's seeing. As you rightly say, Mike, people aren't feeling better off. We've just seen
they're
tax
not better
burden,
off.
and they're not better off, and we've just seen the tax burden go up by 40 billion quid.
Right.
You know,
and also, he calls them the tough decisions. That doesn't mean they're tough decisions. They're particularly tough decisions. They're just wrong decisions. You know, he's taken decisions to harm farmers. He's taken decisions to harm pensioners. He's taken decisions to put employment costs up for employers. He's taken decisions to give easy money to public sector workers. These are all decisions, not hard decisions.
And they have knock-on impacts. So if you look at the Telegraph today, they've got a good story about the possible rise in inflation again. We had the possibility of the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee actually cutting interest rates further, and that matters to you and me and all of your listeners because we want to pay less on our mortgages every month.
Absolutely.
But now they're not going to do it because, of course...
So mortgages are going up.
Mortgages are going up. Right. So because employers are going to have to pass on those additional costs, £25 billion in national insurance increases for employers announced in the budget. They're going to have to pass those on to consumers in the form of higher prices. Right. Therefore, you get inflation.
Exactly.
Therefore, interest rates.
And also, yesterday we learned from the FT that hiring from private companies is at its lowest ebb and is going down faster than it did after the 2009 banking crisis.
And then we have some sort of warm words out this morning from Keir Starmer saying, well, I'm not saying never, but I don't want to increase taxes again, and I think I've done most of it in the course of the last budget.
I think he's panicking now.
But actually, the likelihood is, we saw the reverse ferret that they had to do when Rachel Reeves said to the CBI conference last month, no new tax rises, and then actually, they couldn't commit to that on the floor of the House of Commons because they probably, if you're going to give the trade unions as much as 10 billion quid in terms of public sector pay rises, and they're probably going to ask for more. We've already heard about Avanti probably going out on strike again. Then you're going to end up in a situation...
But here's the thing, he's also busted the currency of truth, because when he says he's not going to do something, nobody believes him, because he said so many times, I'm not going to do something, which he then does. I mean, we will play you over the course of the show today all sorts of Labour MPs, when they were in opposition, absolutely and utterly being very, very sure that they would not betray the Waspi women. These are women who have been sort of stuck in a pensions nightmare because they've been told they have to work longer than they thought they would have to, instead of retiring, because their pension isn't actually covered by the money that the government has got.
What's egregious about this is that Liz Kendall, Keir Starmer, used that campaign to appeal to Angela Rayner, used that campaign to appeal to voters of that generation to vote Labour because they said they were going to put it, they were going to put the injustice right.
Yeah.
And then they get into office and they're suddenly looking at the books and they're suddenly realising that it's going to cost more than £10 billion, and they're not prepared to do it. Well, hang on a moment. We knew the sums. We knew the sums beforehand.
Yeah.
Everybody knew that if you're going to give 3,000 quid to 3.5 million women, you're going to end up with a bill of around 10 billion quid.
I mean, I can even do that on an abacus in front of me, you know. Let's have a look at what Angela Rayner said. This was in 2019.
Well, the government failed the women who were born in the 1950s. They stole their pension, that contract, that agreement that they thought they had, and then accelerated it so that those women didn't have the chance to prepare for that. We said we'll right that injustice, and within the 5 years of the Labour government, we will compensate them for the money that they've lost. This is their money that they've had stolen off them, and it's completely unacceptable. And any government should act responsibly to these women who have looked after their children through that period. They're often looking after elderly relatives now, and they're a part of our society that have felt really unjust by the way they've been treated, and it's absolutely right that we deal with this issue.
I find that quite disgusting, actually. You know, I'm sick to death of these bloody Labour politicians who just tell lie after lie after lie, promise one thing, get into office, and then completely just pretend it never happened.
Liz Kendall...
disgusting.
Liz Kendall, pictured with a poster. This is what it says. This is... says, I will work with Waspi to identify and deliver a fair solution for all women affected. Do you know what Angela Madden, chairwoman of the Waspi campaign, accused ministers of yesterday after the announcement? A bizarre and totally unjustified move, and all options remain on the table. Parliament must now seek an alternative mechanism to force the issue. So she clearly doesn't think, you know, just saying, well, actually, we can't do this now because we need to protect the taxpayers. It's not good enough.
It's really not.
And, of course, it comes off the back of the winter fuel allowance.
Of course. So it's a double whammy for these people. And, by the way, just in case you don't know what Waspi stands for, we've spoken to Waspi women over the course of the last few years on this very show, on this very station, many, many times, and we've been in support of them. Women Against State Pension Inequality. We've campaigned for them. 3.8 million women, as you say, in the 1950s were not made aware that the pension age was changing, and so their retirement plans are in chaos. They've now, having sort of budgeted for taking early, or not early retirement, just a retirement in their 60s, now finding that they have to continue working if they possibly can. Otherwise, they're missing out massively.
Yes, and so this goes back to there was a differentiation in the pension age for women. It was 60, and then it was men at 65.
Yeah.
And then they changed it, and they changed the pension age so that it then goes up to women go up to 65, so they're aligned.
Yeah.
And these women who were born during the 1950s, 3.8 million still alive, just told, actually, you're just going to have to work for longer, and you're not going to receive...
67, maybe 68.
You're not going to receive any compensation whatsoever. And then, of course, they launched... It was a success. You can call it a successful campaign. Labour pledging, if they come into power, that they're going to, you know, ensure that this injustice is righted. And each woman would, in order to ensure parity, would be entitled to around just shy of £3,000.
Yeah.
And they said, and now they've turned around in the House of Commons. And it's quite cynical the way they've done it, Mike, because they did it yesterday when the Prime Minister's abroad.
Away, again.
Well,
it's not hard to pick that sort of time, is it?
And then, of course, just before the Christmas holidays, because Labour MPs, not just Reform MPs and Tory MPs, Labour MPs are absolutely livid.
Well, one of them was quoted in the Times this morning. Brian Leishman, Labour MP for Alloa and Grangemouth up in Scotland, said he was appalled by the decision. It says it made me think of issues like Grenfell, Hillsborough and Orgreave. I think today is another one of those historic injustices that are a stain on society. Those are pretty serious words.
Yes, and he doesn't. And Keir Starmer, you know, Parliament breaks up this week, and you're in a situation where Keir Starmer's just going to go, well, no, sorry, Parliament's over, done, finished, everybody off on Christmas, and hopes that he can get away with it.
They're so cynical about it as well. It really, I think people are seeing through it in a way which they're not going to recover from. People are so fed up with this government. I mean, you hear it in the voices of people who leave us voice notes. Let's have another listen to Keir Starmer with Harry Cole. Here he is talking about two-tier policing.
Does it get to you, that two-tier thing? It's unfair, completely unfair, then?
Well, I'm going to stand with our police officers on the front line. I shook them by the hand and said, thank you for going to the most difficult scene that any of us can imagine. By the time I had arrived back in London, they were putting their riot gear on to go out on the front line, to have things hurled at them, to see their fellow officers injured and to have people shouting at them two-tier policing, exposing them to threat. If you're asking me, do I stand with them or do I not? I stand with them every single time.
Oh my God! You know, imagine police officers having to go out on the front line and be shouted at.
Yeah,
What's he talking about?
And you had the situation,
Being
didn't you?
shouted at.
Ooh. You had the situation a couple of days ago when the individual who threw a milkshake over Nigel Farage escapes prison.
Yeah.
And actually, that could have been battery acid.
Could have been.
And if you're going to take,
and it's an assault on a person,
it's
right?
It's an assault on an MP, and it doesn't matter. And where Labour or where there's a problem here is that they managed to put. The government managed to put the pressure, the thumb screws on the CPS and on the judicial system during the summer to ensure that there were quick and severe justice when it came to the riots. It would have been smart to have done the same in this particular case, because regardless of your politics, you can't go around somehow just shrugging off or saying it's acceptable to assault an MP.
No, of course not.
It's not acceptable,
People
and it could be an MP
have gone to jail in the past. The person who threw an egg at Jeremy Corbyn went to jail. The guy who threw an egg at John Prescott, who was later punched by John Prescott to the ground, he went to jail. This woman doesn't go to jail because why? It was Nigel Farage.
Yes, and it should.
No question.
And that's. That's a problem, that actually there was an opportunity there. You would have thought that somebody somewhere in government would think, actually, if this individual goes to jail for this particular crime, then actually, and I appreciate there's a separation, right? There's a separation, but you can demand of the CPS and you can demand of the judiciary that there's firm and robust justice. But actually, the accusations, they had an opportunity there, Mike, to get the accusations of two-tier Keir and all of those, two-tier policing.
Put them to
bed.
Yeah.
You could say, well, look...
Absolutely right.
And
also, the other problem for me is that if you don't send people like that to prison, then what's to stop somebody else from doing it? Because they'll go, it'd be fine. I'll just give us a community service order. I'll work from home. I'll clean up some, bottle tops at some point or other down the road. No problem at all. It's worth it. I'll get my name in the paper.
Yeah, the whole point of these sentences, especially when it comes to assaulting an MP, is deterrent. You don't want these individuals to come out as heroes. That's why they had to do what they did with Just Stop Oil, because you had these individuals causing mayhem and then getting, a couple of weeks in prison. It was sort of a badge of honour. That's why they had to step in with really severe sentences.
And isn't it funny how they've all stopped?
And they've stopped. And you would think that actually, if this individual for the milkshake had gone to prison for, 2 years because of the threat that it posed, it's a deterrent to their don't go and assault an MP, regardless of their political persuasion.
Exactly.
Is not acceptable. Then you end up in a situation where actually they would stop.
Yeah, quite. One picture that's putting the wind up an awful lot of people on the left this morning is on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. Nick Candy, the newly appointed Treasurer of Reform, who's already given them over £1 million of a donation of his own money. Elon Musk in the middle, Nigel Farage on the right. A picture taken at Mar-a-Lago. I'm assuming in the background, Donald Trump appears to be wearing a cricket jumper. I'm not sure that's an exact likeness of him, but never mind. But it's quite a powerful picture, isn't it? Quite a powerful image.
Yes, and I think in Downing Street and indeed in Conservative headquarters, it will be sending a shiver down the spines of the respective apparatchiks who look at this picture, because Elon Musk talking now about giving a $100 million donation to Reform UK, it would be a game changer. Just to put it in perspective, the largest political donations that I've ever seen knocking around are about £5 million. And that's to the Tories. Labour, of course, get most of their money.
Dale Vince claims he gave £5 million to Labour, and when I asked him what he gave it to them for, he said just to help them get elected, quite openly. He's also, of course, been one of the most vocal people on Twitter saying, we can't allow foreign interference in elections. Well, it's all right for you to interfere, though, Dale.
Well, and look, there's an easy get around here, right? Elon Musk doesn't need... All he needs to do is just select... He could open a sort of... I don't actually know whether X has an office in this country.
I believe they do.
Do they do? Well, just make the donation through that.
Funnel it through that.
Or you could just, he could open a kebab shop and say that's a business in the UK, and call it the X Kebab Shop, and he could just make a donation from there. It's a really easy get around, and that's why I think what they're looking at doing, and Labour are looking at doing, is putting a cap on it. But even then, you would expect that somebody of Elon Musk's IQ and street smarts will be able to figure a way around it. I mean, this is an absolute... To give Reform UK, 78 million, I think when you do the currency conversion, it translates to about 78 million pounds. It would turbocharge them, wouldn't it?
Absolutely right. Incredible stuff. Right, we'll talk some more about that coming up in the next bit of the show. Coming up now, though, let's get a voice note from Brian.
Hello, Mike. Brian from Southend. Another day, another Starmer story, another Starmer lie, another Labour lie. How much longer are we effing going to put up with this? The whole Labour Party is an absolute shambles, hell-bent on destroying this country, with no thought whatsoever about the OAPs or the people that live here. You know, it's an absolute effing disgrace. You know, lie after lie after lie. And how much longer can we put up with it? There's got to be some sort of mechanism in government to stop these people doing what they're doing and whenever and however he likes.
Absolutely right. Brian speaks for the nation here, because people are getting more and more fed up and more angry with this continual catalogue of untruth which they've been peddling. Everything they said they would do before the election in July the 4th, they haven't done. Everything they said they wouldn't do, they've done. They said they wouldn't put up taxes, they have. They said they'd put a cap on energy, they haven't. They said that they would stop the boats, they haven't done that. They would smash the gangs, they haven't done that. They said that they would help business, they haven't done that. They said that they would make people better off, they haven't done that. You know, is there anything they've actually done that they promised to do? I can't think of anything.
It's difficult, isn't it? I can't. There's nothing that springs to the top of my head either, and that's a problem.
And that is a problem.
We're coming up to, we're nearly 6 months into this government.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer has one of, if not the lowest approval rating for a prime minister in such a short space of time.
Yeah.
He was never box office, even in the election.
No.
People sort of, you saw Reform split the Conservative vote, and Labour obviously came in with a majority of 170, still won the election fine. He had a bit of a bounce in July, and then ever since then, it's just gone downhill. And he needs to find, and he talks about these resets, we have these plans for change, but he needs to find a reason to exist.
Yes.
And a reason to actually do the things that he said he would do in order to keep the country being broadly supportive, even if they're not going to vote Labour, but being broadly supportive of his position. And he hasn't managed to do that.
He hasn't managed to do that.
And the situation is that, with Brian's point, is I think more and more people will feel like that. We learnt this week, there were due to be some local elections. There still are due to be local elections in May, and now they're saying, hang on a moment, we want to have a reorganisation. They could possibly cancel them.
Yeah.
There comes a...
It's a sort of turbo gerrymandering operation, this, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't see them getting away with that.
No.
They're just going to have to take the pain at the local elections.
Yes, I think so.
And they're going to have to take the
because they can't explain what it is they're trying to do anyway, as far as that. So we tried to get it out of them yesterday. We had the devolution minister on, who just completely went... It was like listening to some guy just going... wouldn't let me speak. It was just ridiculous. By the way, can I just ask a question? I don't know if we've got the picture of Harry Cole interviewing Keir Starmer or anything from him yesterday. He's dressed like a guy who's going on some kind of, stag weekend or something. So if anybody throws any beer over him, it won't mess up his suit. Harry Cole manages to wear a nice-looking coat. You can see him there. He's wearing a shirt. He's wearing a tie. What's Starmer wearing? Considering that he's bankrolled by Lord Ali, from the sort of, the Savile Row Tailors Guild or whatever it is, why does he look like a tramp? I'm asking
sorry, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I know, it's back in the room. Here he is, Theo Ashwood.
Sorry. I think he's going for that. I'm not an expert on Prime Minister.
Neither is he, by the looks of it.
Elegance.
Right.
I think he's going for the sort of... He's on a ship. He's on HMS Iron Duke, which is being deployed in the region.
No, but he doesn't look like he's a sailor,
and it's a sort of... I take your point. It's a sort of bomber jacket,
yeah, and then of course zip-up affair.
And then it's very cold, so he's got a cardigan underneath.
It's never a good look. With a zip.
I don't know. No, it's not a collared shirt. I think it's just a t-shirt. But I think
doesn't seem to have a collar.
No, he doesn't. But I think it's that sort of... Do you remember when they sort of... some presidents go on Air Force One, and there's a bomber jacket.
Yeah, but there's a bomber jacket that's got USA on it, which is pretty cool. But this is not cool.
This is no... There's no sort of GB...
no, I mean, you see George Bush with his bomber jacket on and a big map of the USA on it.
It's a poor
and
man's
USA.
version of that.
I mean, you knew that if you went anywhere near it, there were 3 Marines who could shoot you dead. This guy just looks like he's walked out of a bar somewhere in the middle of Prague on a sort of stag weekend. It's very, very weird.